one of the things that was highlighted during the January 6th hearings that happened last night was that Donald Trump, while he was sitting in the dining room for multiple hours during January 6th, not acting, not reaching out to the necessary law enforcement organizations, not calling off his mob, sending out a video, sending out a tweet, directly calling them off until multiple hours into it. Instead, he was still calling senators, trying to get them to commit to not certifying the election results once they continued that process. Obviously, got interrupted during the riot, but he knew once it happened again, he wanted them to commit that they weren't going to certify it. So while this was happening, what caused all of this? Him lying about the election, him claiming it was fraudulent, him trying to do this big plot to have the Vice President Mike Pence not certify the election and senators get up and not certify it. And instead of realizing when he saw January 6th start happening and all of the damage that was being done and be like, oh gosh, I went too far, this is bad. No, instead he's spending that time calling senators, trying to get them to decertify or not certify the election. And it wasn't just him doing that. Some of his close, unhinged allies were doing it as well, including Rudy Giuliani. Now, what's beautiful about Rudy Giuliani? He is not smart these days. And so he did what you should never do when you're trying to convince someone into doing something that is probably unlawful, which is you're trying to interfere with a lawful election process, the certification of an election. So you're trying to pressure a senator not to go through a lawful election process and to stand up against and not certify the election. And so Rudy's so dumb that he did that over a voicemail. Not something you should do when you're doing something this suspicious and this malicious as well. And so he left a voicemail, and we get to listen to that right now. He called Senator Tommy Tuberville and said, I just need you to stall for me so we can continue to try to steal the election. Obviously, he didn't use those words. Let's take a look.
Senator Tuberville, or I should say Coach Tuberville, this is Rudy Giuliani, President's lawyer. I'm calling you because I want to discuss with you how they're trying to rush this hearing and how we need you, our Republican friends, to try to just slow it down so we can get these legislatures to get more information to you.
So again, this is as the riots are going on, and Rudy Giuliani is calling Tommy Tuberville and leaving a voicemail saying, hey, you know how we're trying to steal the election? Yeah, we need a little more time. We gotta sort out this fake electors thing and kind of figure out how we can pretend there's fraud when there's not. So anything you can do to stall the process would be great. All right, I'll catch you later. Call me back if you want to help me overthrow democracy. Bye-bye. Like, what are you doing, Rudy? If you're gonna do this, don't put it on a voicemail. But anyways, wild stuff. Trump and Rudy and whoever else was involved absolutely should be held accountable. We cannot have a situation where we have elections, but then the only thing that will allow the election to, or allow the election results to stand is if somehow the opposition's attempts to, unlawfully reject them don't go through. Because that's the only reason why everything happened as it did and Biden did become president, is because their coup attempt failed. I know people don't like when I use the word coup sometimes because it sounds too like military tanks rolling up to a governmental building. But that's what this was. This was Trump's team trying to overturn the election results after they had lost multiple times in court, and Rudy Giuliani, along with Donald Trump, trying to pressure senators to not certify the election, even though there was no fraud or no, fraud that would affect the election. And so I just think that moment represents, first of all, how much they were stumbling over themselves. And what it strikes into my heart is how scary it is that if you had more competent people trying to do what they were doing, we could be in a worse situation. But instead it was Rudy, being all weird and incompetent in his attempt to overturn the election results instead of someone more competent. So we absolutely had to take this seriously. Scary stuff. Our democracy was threatened in a very serious way, and Rudy represents that in the most goofy way possible for something that is so serious.